Our purpose is to build a holistic voice that creates a community of like-minded, healthy people for a healthier planet. Our goal is to unify the community, nourishing the growth in mind, body, spirit, awareness, and wellness. We want to engage our community and visitors so they have access to powerful momentum of the holistic presence in our community. We do this by creating awareness through interviews, providing education and awareness of cutting-edge modalities. We also provide access for consumers to quality natural health and wellness professional and practitioners and like-minded business that support this community. Thank you for listening with us on Healthy Planet One. Stay with us for the next interview with our next holistic guest.
Everyone, this month's focus is on intention and building success for the new year. We're going to have two guests talk about their successful businesses and how they got there. And we're also going to have a special two-part series on tools to build your successful year. So we invite you to listen in each week. So our guest this week is Mark Jackson. Mark is a licensed clinical social worker. He wears several hats here on the west coast of Florida, the Gulf Coast here. And he's also the CEO of Omega Wellness LLC. So he was drawn into wellness after helping his mother survive a 3-month hospice with diagnosis of stage 4 cancer. So he really has a passion for returning people to wellness, and he also does some therapy with the end-stage kidney disease and patients that are already on dialysis. So let's welcome Mark Jackson. Hi, Mark. How are you doing today? Thanks for being on.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Katie.
Yeah. So, So this is Kimberly. So tell us a little bit more. I shed a little light on your story about yourself and what led you into this amazing give back field of wellness.
Right. Well, unfortunately enough, I think it's a typical story where, there's an event that leads you to start thinking about, just how you're organizing your life and where you put priorities. So for me, it was my mom's diagnosis. She was told, hey, you have stage 4 cancer. It started in the breast, but no, it's everywhere in your body, and you have 3 months to live. So, go home and do what you need to do. Take 3 months to do it. So that was like a turning point. It was like an awakening, because I think most people who get a diagnosis like that generally ask 3 questions, right? Well, how did this happen? How did we get to this point? What could we have done to possibly avoid it? And what do we do now? Mm. So in asking myself those questions, I realized that I really hadn't put enough attention on wellness, in the sense of not, treating a disease, but staying healthy in the first place.
Right, that whole preventative type of model that the more successful holistic practices look at, right?
Right.
So I know a little bit about Omega Wellness, and I'm very impressed. So can you tell our listening audience about Omega Wellness and what you offer, and kind of a little bit about how it works?
Okay. So I'd like to think that Omega Wellness is very dynamic, right? And the primary premise of everything we do is really about validating your efficiency. If you're going to do an intervention, we want it validated. And that whole concept sort of came from, again, when I had the issue with my mom, I was talking to the oncologist, and he said, well, hey, this disease, this cancer would have been developing for the last 6 or 7 years. So to me, in some sense, that was a little unacceptable, because I'm thinking, well, it sounds to me like you're saying we could have been doing something about this 6, 7 years ago. How did we not know that this was happening? So that's why I realized validation and testing were so important, right? Because if you're going to say to someone who thinks they're healthy, hey, let's do this to keep you healthy, one of the questions they're probably going to ask is, well, how or why should I do this? So here we
Exactly.
go with a test, right? Right. So we measure oxidative stress on the body by measuring antioxidant levels. The more antioxidant levels, the higher the antioxidant level in your body, the less likelihood that you'll develop a comorbidity because your inflammation level's lower, right?
Yes, you're talking my
So
language. That's the way I cook. Yeah,
there we go.
I love this.
There
Yeah.
we go.
Mhm.
But see, the impressive thing about this is most people in society, and I'm going to put my hand up as being one of those people, prior to all this happening, they have no clue how important the impact of oxidative stress is on the body, the link that it has to the comorbidities. Like it's just, it's just not something that's mainstream. And
Yeah.
what we focus on is actually treating the disease. So we'll manage the symptoms. We won't do the prevention part so much. But what we do at Omega Wellness is we provide that education. So we do personalized wellness plans as well as for corporations.
Okay.
And we work with different practitioners, wellness practitioners, to essentially validate whatever work they're going to do. Primarily, most disease processes start with inflammation, right? So if you're measuring oxidative stress and you're actually doing something, whether it's, therapy, yoga, supplementation, whatever you're going to do, we should be able to measure the impact at the cellular level to say, hey, this person is now less likely to develop a comorbidity.
Right, because as you alluded to, and we know because we've mentioned it on prior shows when we were talking about other things, even the 5G problem and with oxidative stress, that
Mm-hmm.
cellular degeneration starts at least 7 years prior to. And at least when
Right.
I do my talks on different talks that I've done, even on, my smoothie demonstrations or on my bioenergetic cooking, that almost 80% of the population, I would say that's valid, I forgot the exact amount, don't know what antioxidants are. So they're not going to know what oxidative stress is. So the education is crucial.
Mm-hmm. The education is crucial. And just like you said, whether it's 5G, right? Because if you think about it, you know, cell phones haven't been mainstream long enough for us to really know what impact they're having on us, right? So there's no real longitudinal study in terms of the impact of the oxidative stress and all that good stuff. So what we're kind of doing right now, as far as environmental oxidative stress, is we're winging it, right?
To some extent,
But
I mean, there
as
are some tests, but yours gives at
sure,
least
sure, sure.
a measurement, and people like to see measurement because it makes it real.
Well, and
Right,
if I can jump in here, Mark, briefly. I mean, it's interesting because you and I've talked, and the validity of doing measurement, and I'm noticing here, you're married to a doctor yourself. You've gone through your master's degree at New York University, and you also had a track scholarships. All of those have to do with measuring. I'm sure your wife does a lot of measuring to see how you're doing, right? So I love
right.
the whole thing, because the measurement gives you the validation of where a person is. So
Exactly.
I know that you do a lot of work with people to check if their supplements are working. And if they're not,
Right.
they're wasting their money, right?
Right, exactly. Well, I mean, so in terms of, raising the antioxidant levels, right, combating free radical damage, you can do the supplementation, right? Again, you can measure to see if they're actually working or not. You could try to lose weight like any good doctor is going to tell you, or any good practitioner. You can try to reduce your stress. So here you go with your massages, your yoga classes, all that good stuff, as well as you can eat more healthy foods. So what we're saying is we can literally measure the impact of most wellness interventions. But the caveat being, whatever the practitioner is doing, now we can say, hey, you came in, this is where you were, this is where we want you to get to. It's been a month, it's been 2 months, we've gotten you there, or we're on the road to getting you there. Now, as far as, because because I believe wellness needs to be way more just known in the community, right? There's so many illnesses going on, and there's so many people who are actually looking for another way. But I don't think the message has gotten out there yet that a lot of the practitioners that do wellness services, that offer wellness services, even exist. So by using validation, this is what I've seen in my own experience is, and when I meet with wellness people who do this kind of testing all over the country, this is what generally happens. Someone says, oh yeah, I did this, I got measured, I realized that it worked. I'm definitely going to stick with this, and I'm going to tell my family because this is going to help me, right? The other thing that happens is people now connect. If I stay healthier longer, that actually impacts my finances, right? Because if I'm not sick, then that means I can work. I'm not disabled. I'm a functional member of society. So it's a lot cheaper to stay healthy than to, deal with a disease process.
So let me ask you a question, Mark. You helped your mother survive a 3-month hospice diagnosis for stage 4 cancer. And were you using these technologies to help her to get back? What did you do for her specifically?
So specifically what we did was we started measuring her antioxidant levels. We used supplementation, better diet. And it's funny because at the time when she had that diagnosis, she also had lymphedema had developed on her arm. She needed oxygen. I mean, she was really going downhill.
Yeah.
And we were focused on the cancer, right? Because that's the thing that's going to kill you. That's the only thing we're going to focus on. But in doing the changes that we did, the lymphedema disappeared on its own. Her lungs recovered. She didn't need oxygen anymore. And today, and this is what I mean about wellness, right? So she is now independent. As a matter of fact, she has a annual pass to Universal Studios. She's literally walking the parks. So this is what I'm talking about when I say wellness, right? As opposed to, I'm managing, I'm running from one doctor to the next, and that sort of stuff.
Right.
So I really, in terms of using measurement, the whole idea is to grab people when they still think they're healthy. Or if they are healthy, let's help you stay there.
That's got to be challenging because what I see in people that think they're healthy, and sometimes you can clearly see they're not. It's kind of challenging to say, you got to look at this. How do you deal with that, Mark?
You need to do an intervention. Well, one of the things I do on the scale or the antioxidant scanner, the worst level that you can get, meaning you have like the least amount of protection possible, is red, right? So generally, to be honest, that kind of is a wake-up call to people anyway, because everybody knows you don't want to be red. Yeah. Oh my God, I'm red, so that means I should stop smoking. Yes, that's what everybody's been saying this whole time. You should probably stop smoking, right? But how I explain it, and people generally get it, because I think, like I said before, our society is so focused on symptom management that education has to come along with it for people to buy in. I explained to them, imagine if you left home, you went to work, or you went out somewhere, and you left your windows and your doors wide open, right? So this is you scoring red on the machine. It doesn't mean that you're sick, but what it means is if someone wants to rob your house, they're just going to walk right in. There's literally no defenses. So when I frame it that way, they generally get it. So just because you're red doesn't mean you're sick right now. But what it means is if, let's say, your body is attacked later on, you have very little defenses. Your body will not be healing itself. That's what leads to, a bunch of medications. And then obviously you get your side effects. And then we need medications for the side effects. And the cycle continues. So when I frame it in that way, I get very little pushback because people understand that, right? If you're leaving your house open, anybody can walk in. It doesn't mean they're going to walk in, but they could with no problems. So then you start thinking about, everybody knows someone who's always sick. Why is this person always sick? Or the person who has a wound and it won't heal, right? It won't heal naturally. Why is that not happening? So clearly the cells aren't performing the way they should